Every year since I've been here, labor reform has been a big deal to me. I'm a business owner, and I also live in southeast Missouri, and so we've seen the need for labor reform for many years, especially right to work with Tennessee, Arkansas, both having it. Well, now Kentucky does as well, but Tennessee and Arkansas both having it. Our economic development guys have been telling us for years that, we weren't even looked at. And so my first few years here, Eric Burleson carried, Representative Burleson carried right to work and really worked hard on it. And I kind of helped with the education side of it for the other members and trying to push that. But I carried paycheck protection and just helped with the labor bills. But this year with Eric not being here any longer, I was very excited to pre-file right to work, knowing how much our state needs it, but certainly southeast Missouri. We have needed it for many years, and it has been, this isn't, the magic year as far as when it's needed. It's been needed, but we have a Republican governor who will sign it and who also campaigned on it. And so that's why this year's the magic year, because we finally have someone who will sign the bill and do what's best for the entire state of Missouri and, not be so concerned about special interests. Site selectors have told us on our freshman tour, and then my economic development guys tell us that when there's a top 5 list that businesses look at, certainly transportation infrastructure is one of them, one of the top. But in southeast Missouri, we have port access, we have low power, we have rail access, which is great, and we have major highways, which is necessary and what companies are looking for, but they don't go any further when they see that you're not a right-to-work state. All other states that have passed this have shown, especially the ones that have just recently passed it. We focus more on looking at the states that have passed it in just the last few years versus the ones that passed it 20 years ago. And so with Michigan, Indiana, Oklahoma, they have seen an influx in jobs and union jobs as well. So it's not just non-union jobs, it's union jobs, non-union jobs. Pay has increased. That's what we want to see. That's what helps the state as a whole in economic development. And of course, more jobs is helping each family in the state also. And I do not think it's the government's job to create jobs. And it drives me nuts when people say, the government should be creating jobs. We shouldn't. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's what, business owners do. They create jobs. But what we are supposed to do as government officials is remove the regulations so that businesses can flourish, so that they do have that extra money to put back in to make that 10 more jobs or build that new plant. And so that's what this is. It just removes some regulations so it helps on the business end. But that in turn provides jobs, which helps every family in this state. With us being on the bottom rung in economic development, I'm very hopeful that we will start seeing some changes quickly in the next few years. I wish I had a crystal ball and could tell you exactly, but I think when we look at Michigan, they've added 58,000 jobs in just the past few years. At the same time, manufacturing jobs in the past few years. At the same time, we've lost 1,200. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see that in reverse. It's very important, and I didn't really realize how important this was until I started working up here more many years ago. But it's very important for us as constituents to educate our representatives and senators. So they don't know what's affecting our business unless we call them and tell them. And so sending a letter, sending an email, giving them a call, when they're in the district, asking if you can have coffee with them in the next week or two, which is, when I'm hopeful that we'll get this to the governor's desk, calling your senator, calling your representative and explaining why this is important. And even if your rep or senator is for it, it's still important to make that call and to explain why, because a lot of times we hear a lot of the negative, but we don't hear so much of the positive. And so when we go home and we hear, oh yes, this is very important, it's like, why didn't you call me and tell me? Let me know these things. So as a representative, I like to hear from my constituents.